Well, good evening and welcome to our late summer surplus on peaches, in this case, about fruit leathering. Our presenter tonight will be Bobby Green. Our monitor and question and answer lead will be Shalinda Wilkins, and I am your host, Tim Long. One housekeeping thing that I would ask is to keep your microphones muted just so that we don't have any kind of disturbance from background noise. And you can either write your questions via the chat or share orally during the Q&A periods. We are the UC Master Food Preservers online delivery team. We are a community outreach, online-based, grant-funded volunteer program through the University of California Cooperative Extension that provides up-to-date research-based information on food safety and preservation. Our goal is to keep Californians safe and well as they use culturally appropriate, research-based practices to safely preserve food in the home, reducing food waste, increasing food security, and providing engaging ways for Californians to explore healthy food. Please note that any statements about particular products used or highlighted in this presentation are not meant to promote, endorse, or oppose an outside entity's product or service. All speakers in this event are not receiving compensation. We are all volunteers. Our goals tonight is to learn how to make homemade fruit rolls, also known as fruit leathers, using your end-of-season peaches, and to discuss the use of fresh, frozen, or drained canned fruit for the same process. Survey reminders, we need input from you. Survey questions were completed upon registration to provide us a sense of your knowledge coming into the event. When the Zoom session closes, a post-event survey will pop up in your browser to give us a sense of your knowledge after the event. It's important to us that we get feedback on what knowledge you have gained and the quality of the event we have provided. This will help us improve our content and delivery for the future. Thank you in advance for your time. This is a preview of the post-event survey. You'll see how the format will be once this presentation is completed and we sign off. We need your input, so please complete the survey. Now, I'm going to turn it over to Bobby Green to talk about peach leathers.
Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for coming tonight. It was nice to see so many people from so many places had signed up to be here with us. Tonight, my objectives here, what we plan to do, we hope that you'll leave aware of fruit leathering's journey, that you'll be able to identify the benefits of homemade fruit leather, know tools and ingredients needed for the recipe presented, understand the process involved in making fruit leather, and finally to identify methods to present and store the fruit leather. Next. In terms of the journey of fruit leathering, dehydration was one of the first types of preservation of foods a long time ago. No record, but people just discovered that that was one way to make their foods last. However, in the Middle East, there was an apricot product called Amardine that came to the United States, to Little Syria in New York. A little family put it together. They were able to build a business and just doing a few a day within the family. But finally, in the 80s, we started getting our fruit roll-ups. Fruit roll-ups were a great idea, but they were advertised as healthy, and they really weren't because of their added sugar content. So there was a class action lawsuit about that in 2011, where they did settle and agreed to change their advertising practices. Next, though, we got a health movement. People started really looking at some of these processed foods that we were starting to get in the 80s. And that's where I personally started making fruit leather, and realizing the benefits of doing it at home. First of all, it's cost effective. So many of us have bulk fruits to make the leathers with. It's much cheaper to make them, even if you're buying that fruit, than to buy the boxes in the store. But the big thing for me was that I was able to control ingredients. And now that I have great grandkids that come and visit a lot, I like that because I don't really have candy in my house, so that's their candy. It's a great way to use up our surplus fruits if we have a tree in our yard or a neighbor with a tree. And you can use the fruit when it's extra ripe, when you might not use it to preserve it in another way. It keeps well, it's portable. You can throw your little bag of fruit leather in your picnic basket and go on your road trip. And it's versatile, and that's another thing that I personally like is you can add spices or you can mix fruits together, have more than one fruit. There's a lot of things that you can do with making your own fruit leather. Go ahead, Tim. Next. What I have here is a variety of drying techniques, and these two pictures of the dehydrators are mine. I ended up using the one in the center, the rectangle dehydrator, because it has a temperature control. I've made fruit leather in the other one, but I just wasn't able to control the temperature. I wasn't sure what I was using. I was just making it. You can also make it in a convection oven or air fryer, which are almost the same thing, sun drying or solar drying. And that got me when I realized we had sun drying and solar drying. I had to look at that a bit closer because at first I thought those would be the same thing, but they're in fact not the same thing. This is a picture of solar drying where the air is controlled as it's brought into the box and then released in order to have that movement that Travis talked about earlier, needing to have to remove that moisture from the area. Next. This is my project that I used for the pictures, and I have to qualify it right now in that I used my canned peaches. And the reason I made it was because I was getting ready to I was getting ready to pick the new peaches, and I had these few jars left. We need to have our fruit, of course, a recipe, some kind of a dehydrator, a food processor, some containers, a strainer in this case, and some way to spread a spoon or spatula to spread it. And then, of course, we have our book right here. So easy to preserve. This is the process right here. And as you can see in the first box, I drained these peaches in the bowl and just dumped them in the food processor. I processed them until they were pure liquid. You can see that there's still pulp in there, but it was pretty easy to pour. You're going to want to add some lemon juice or ascorbic acid to help with the color. It helps avoid the fruit turning too dark. And so you can see I'm adding some lemon juice right there. Next, what I did is I cut out, slipped my mind, paper to put on my dehydrator so I wouldn't have that all running in through the dehydrator. Fit that onto the tray, 4 trays in this particular dehydrator. And as you can see, it's pretty thick. I just spooned it in there on top of the paper, the parchment paper. And I then spread it around with a little spatula between 1/8 and 1/4 inch. And really that's it's a depends thing, how thick you want it to be. It's going to take longer, the thicker it is. And so then I just spread it around evenly at about 3/8 of I mean about 1/4 inch. Next. This is what it looks like when it's drying. And so I was able to get a picture after 3 hours, and it almost looks like it wasn't even warm yet. You can see a little bit on where there's the 2 examples. The second example is a little on the edges, a little brown. But the one on the left was on the top of the stack. So they're all stacked. It was at the top. It just didn't get as much heat. After 7 hours, you started to see the dark rim all the way around that fruit leather. And by 11 hours, it was all starting to get pretty dry. And so within the next hour, I took it off. You can see that it just picks right up off that parchment paper, loosens easily once. And I have to tell you, I did try to pick it up a couple times and it didn't loosen, so it wasn't quite ready. It was still a little liquidy. Next, Tim. Finally, my grandkids and I, what we did with our fruit leathers, we put it into rolls and put little ribbons, and it just, the kids, I keep the jar out on the counter, and the kids are welcome to get it when they want. By being a part of it, they were more eager to eat it. The second, the little star fruit leathers there, we used a cookie cutter, and that was a different batch with peaches in our backyard. When you store it, you can store it for up to a month at room temperature, and you can refrigerate it for several months, or you can freeze it for up to a year. And next, the recipe, and it isn't as much of a recipe as it is directions, is in this book here, So Easy to Preserve. And I think you'll be getting a handout of the 2 pages that I used to do this. And thank you very much. That's the process of making fruit leather.
All right, Shalinda, do we have any questions in the chat room? Or would someone like to ask a question online?
Yes. What temperature did you set the dehydrator on?
140 degrees.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Shalinda.
Any other questions anyone would like to ask?
I have one. So if the great grandkids don't eat them all within the first couple of weeks, how long will they stay good?
Well, we can put them in the refrigerator. They'll stay good about a month out on the shelf. We can put them in the refrigerator for several months, and then, which I did freeze some of them because I knew they weren't going to get eaten. So I just poke them in and fill up the jar when they come back to visit.
Other questions?
No other questions?
I have another one. So you made these with canned peaches. Have you made them with fresh peaches? And is there a difference in the taste?
Good question. I made them with the canned peaches, and then I made that second batch where I had the stars with the fresh peaches. And I personally believe that they were tastier with the fresh peaches. It was more of that fresh peachy flavor. And even though I drained the peaches that were canned, there's still some water in there that fresh is better, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Bobby, I have another question from you from Nina.
Sure.
She would like to know, have you dehydrated persimmons before?
I haven't, but I might do that this year because I do have a persimmon tree that is finally producing this year.
And I have another question from Matt. He would like to know what is the motto name of your dehydrator?
Oh my. That's a good question, and I'm not sure, and without seeing the picture. I'm not sure I bought it on Market Watch. So
I think the round one that you showed was probably a Nesco.
yeah, that was a Nesco, but the gray one, I am not sure what it is. I don't know if it was on the picture or not.
Okay, I have another question. They would like to know, Sharon would like to know how much sugar is in the recipe.
The recipe with the canned peaches, I had canned them with honey, and it wasn't much. It was just, and then of course you're throwing a lot of it out. That might be why the kids like the fresh so much, because we did add sugar and it was kind of candy flavored. It took some days to tone down that sweetness. And after a few weeks, then all of it started tasting more peachy. And I'm not sure why that would happen, but we certainly got group consensus here at my house that it was a more peachy flavor.
I have some more questions for you, Bobby. I have a question from Rob. Can or jar applesauce be used instead?
Say that again, Shalinda?
Can you use applesauce, canned or
Oh.
jarred, instead to do the leather?
Oh, absolutely. And it really looked like applesauce, kind of a runny applesauce with the one that had been canned, but it looked the same texture. I mean, so yes, it would just be dry, dehydrated apples.
All right. And could you possibly talk about what features to look for when buying a dehydrator?
Okay, well, the first thing that I would pay attention to is that it does have a temperature gauge. Because like I say, that's why I switched over as I've gotten more into dehydrating food. Second, and this is just an opinion, I personally like especially for this, the rectangle shaped dehydrator. It's easier to make rolls to roll up with the kids. It's just easier to make more uniform pieces. But somebody else might like pie shaped. So there you go.
All right. I have another question. Are there any risks of bacterial growth?
If you get enough water out, the risk would be minimized. And that's how our dehydration works. We remove enough moisture that from our foods, so bacteria, yeast, and molds aren't able to grow. They need that moisture to grow. So it would show, I would think, it would show if there was any kind of a problem with microbial growth.
All right. Another question that just came in is, if you don't have a dehydrator, can you do it in the oven?
Yes, you can. At 100, if your oven goes to 140 degrees, or the air fryer too, because you would have that movement, and it would probably be faster in an air fryer or a convection oven.
All right. That's all my questions. Unless anyone else has questions, I'll turn it back over to Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, then. Our future education and involvement, if you would, we would love for you to sign up for our email list and receive notices about upcoming events. Sign up for our newsletter, which hopefully will be coming out on November 4th. Be looking forward to that. And then you can also find us on Facebook. Search for us at facebook.com/UCMP, which stands for University of California Master Food Preservers. And please like us. It helps with the algorithm so that we get little brownie points.
Tim?
Yes.
I had just 2 more questions come in, if Bobby wouldn't mind answering it.
Sure.
Sure.
So I have one from Sharon again. She asked about a particular brand she bought, and she wants to know she's wondering how many fruit rows would turn out on a silicone mat. So have you ever used a silicone mat to do this?
Well, that's what I have, is a silicone mat on the rectangular dehydrator. And I don't know how many rolls. I don't know how to answer that. You can fill up the rectangle, the size that I showed you, with about 2 cups. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. And by the time you spread that out, that's a 13 by or 11 by 15 piece of leather. And depends on what size you cut them at. Like mine are all random sizes.
All right. And the other question is, how do you know if the right amount of moisture is gone?
Well, you can just pick it up. It's like leather. It's a whole texture like leather. And it really does have moisture in it until it's ready to take out of the dehydrator. It's, you can, it'll be obvious, when you can pick it up and, pull it, separate it from the paper. It'll be obvious that, it's done, because you can't pick it up until it's done.
All right. Thank you, Tim. I'm sorry, Bobby. Thank you for answering those questions.
You bet.
Are there any more questions before we proceed? Don't hesitate, speak up. Okay. Well, as you can see on the screen, the UC Master Food Preserver Program statewide website is shown. The National Center for Home Food Preservation, which is through the University of Georgia, is also shown. And see the digital handout that you will be sent for copies of the recipes that were covered in this presentation. They will be emailed to you by Dr. Alexander along with a PDF copy of these slides. Upcoming events, the zucchini, the cold dry facts on 10/25, Ask a Master Food Preserver live question and answer on November 6th, which is the first Wednesday, and Preserving Persimmons on 11/14. So look forward to those, sign up, and we hope to see you at those events as well. And that's the end of our program for tonight.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I will end this session so that a survey pops up in your browser. If you don't see a survey, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Thank you again for joining us tonight, and have a wonderful evening.